So the big question is this: how do most agents who struggle to get the information that most successful agents hoard to themselves grow and prosper without this information? That's the big question, and this video cast is the answer. Welcome to Real Estate Rockstars. I'm your host, Pat Hiban. And now, for the review of the day. Kelly Skevel gave a 5-star review for Real Estate Rockstars. I started listening to Pat only a few months after getting started in real estate. His podcast motivated me beyond belief and has been instrumental in my success. Thanks, Pat. 5 stars. Well, thank you, Kelly. Keep the comments coming, guys. I love them. And remember, I eat feedback for breakfast. So give me a 1-star review if you want, or a 5-star review if you want. I don't care. And the more reviews we get, the better guests we get. So please, subscribe first, and then leave us a review or wherever you're listening. All right, guys, well, we've tried the new show for a number of episodes, and the downloads have spoken. You guys love this show. Wow, I am so honored that we can do an engaging and fun and current show that agents from all over the world are listening to and learning from about what's happening in our beloved real estate industry. So we're going to keep it up. We're excited, and welcome to today's State of the Market.
Welcome, Rockstar Nation. Thanks for tuning into the State of the Market podcast with your host, Pat Hiban and Kevin Kaufman.
All right, Rockstar Nation, we got some serious news today. I am here with my wonderful co-host, Mr. Kevin Kaufman. Kevin, what is going on? Let's get on some state of the market news. How are you?
Pretty good, Pat. I'm having a great week already, and man, lots of news going on today, this week, and my sense is that there's probably going to be a few more stories breaking over the next few days. There's that summit going on in California with all the executives from all the major players in the industry. I think it's called like the T360 or something like that. And man, it's been a crazy news week since you and I last spoke. So I'm excited to chat today. You and I have got a few things to talk about, and
yeah. Well, let's get down to some nitty gritty here. First of all, some bad news. It seems that it would have seemed from the headlines for your company, eXp Real Estate. First of all, talk to me about this. It says that you guys can't keep ahead there. You can't keep ahead of the company. Executive level positions. 3 executives have defected, let's say, in the last 6 months. What do you know about that?
Yeah, it's funny. So what brought about the story was the departure of Scott Petronis, who was the CTO. And Scott's a good guy. I got to meet him a few times, spend a little bit of time with him. Really smart. He led us on a couple acquisitions in the technology space late last year. Really good guy, and it sounds to me like Scott got a great opportunity in his eyes that he couldn't turn down with Redify, which is about to be another flat fee brokerage that goes public here any minute. But I think like most headlines, it's a bit sensational. A couple of the other executive departures were, how shall I say, I would say that that it was something where it benefited all parties. And it was something where it was a natural time to move on. I think when a company has skyrocketed in growth the way eXp has over the last couple of years, I mean, the last 2 years and 3 months, they've gone from 2,500 agents to north of 18,000. That's a big number. That's a big jump. And that requires a high level of leadership and sometimes some change. And there were some folks, I think, maybe that, decided to move on because the positions and responsibilities and roles had started to change a little bit. So definitely sad to see Scott go. He's a smart guy. He's going to probably do great things at this company, at his new company. And it sounds to me like he got a really great opportunity. So, hats off to him. I can't hate him for that.
Yeah, what I see with a lot of these companies, because you and I have talked about CEOs and that sort of thing flipping like crazy over the last 12 months. Um, a lot of the companies, eXp included, tend to, bring up people that have been in the business, in the game, and put them into executive roles. Unlike other more corporate type companies in the real estate game, and I mean corporate by the fact that their CEOs are, well, they're CEOs of other corporations first, and then they become CEOs of a real estate company. Like you got Century 21 and Remax that have done that. So do you think that's part of the problem is that you guys keep putting in these agents, so to speak? And you're like one of these people, it says, the article says they basically she went back to selling houses.
I can't comment on whether or not she went back to selling houses. My assumption is though that you're probably onto something there. I know that's been part of the problem at KW as well. Listen, it's great to promote from within. And I've gotten to know Glenn, the founder of eXp, and I know Gary Keller very well. And they both believe in promoting from within whenever possible. All of the business reviews, Harvard business classes, they all say to do that whenever possible. The results are there. However, I think sometimes in our industry, we got some really great minds in our industry, and then we've also got some people that like maybe growing into that type of position is difficult for some people. I think some people are meant to be executives and maybe some aren't, or some, I shouldn't say meant to be, are learned or trained how to be, and some aren't. I look at myself as an example. Like I like to make fun of myself. Like, listen, I can never be the president of the United States because I'd probably act like the current one. And not, I don't mean that from a political standpoint, but I mean, like, you'd have to take away my Twitter account, right? Or if I ever hit it big and I get to buy a professional sports team, I'm going to be like Mark Cuban. I'm going to be the guy on the sidelines, and I'm going to be getting fined by the NBA or the NFL or the Major League Baseball every other week because of my behavior and my wanting to speak out and act like a fan and a player and an agent and someone down on the ground floor. And I think that when we start talking about these publicly traded companies or just these big corporations, because KW is not public yet, when we start talking about that, I think there's just this different level of leadership, and it's a different skill set. I'm not saying it's better or worse or anything like that. I'm just saying it's different, and that I think that's something that we have to account for. And I think many of these founders don't want to, because they really believe in promoting from within.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you're right. I think you're right on. I mean, I'm the same way. I would never want a corporate job. I mean, I tried once and it failed miserably. And it's just, we're just not cut from that thread. And I think that if you really are a corporate guy or girl, you're going to do great. You're going to, to some level. Now, will you gain the respect of the agents? It's a lot harder unless you understand the hell out of the business. I've talked to some CEOs of other companies recently that have gotten into the real estate space. Like they were at a different space before. They got into the real estate space and they didn't get it. They didn't understand it. They were saying things to me that I'm like, duh. And, so you got to have the respect of the people, and you've got to have the ability to be a quote unquote corporate guy.
Yeah. And that's tough. And,
or girl.
Yeah, that really is tough to be able to cross over. That's like saying you've got to be able to be, if you're a basketball fan, a great ball handler and a great, perimeter defender or something like that. You just don't see somebody oftentimes with like these multiple skill sets that go across vastly different things. And I just think that's what it is. And, I'll tell you, one of the things that I was impressed with when I met with the leaders at NRT and Realogy a few years ago. And I noticed that they had a great mix of both. I'm going to call them real estate people, and I'll call them executives as well. And I thought that they've got a really good group going there. And I'm sure that's something that they've learned over time, that you just can't have one and not the other, because guys like you and me on the ground floor, right? We've sold a lot of houses. I can see right through you if you don't understand real estate. And yet at the same time, understanding how Wall Street works and how a corporation with 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, maybe even 200,000 associates works, that's different.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. So, and that leads me to this next one. Hey, and I hate to keep bashing it this morning, but listen, so, it says here in California, the board of realtors are all hell bent out of shape. Agents are complaining to the board that, there's quite a few violations. The person at the board or somebody that was quoted as saying that this is the worst she's ever seen it from any company in history. How many violations the eXp contingency has there? Talk to me about this.
72 violations to be exact, at least as of the other day. I got to laugh at this one, man. eXp's been operating in California for like 10 years now. There's almost 2,000 agents in California at eXp. And they're talking about stuff on social media. I just took down one of my Facebook pages because I think that I'm actually technically breaking the rules right now, because the way it says there's a very specific way they want it said. Now, I'm not saying that these aren't rules for a good reason. They're all there. But the one thing I would say is that I'm just going to say it feels like a little bit of a witch hunt. It's kind of ridiculous. My guess, and I'm not going to do this, but my guess is if I go look at, I don't know, I'll just, randomly pick 25 of my agent friends' Facebook pages and websites around the state in California at all different brokerages, I bet you I'd find no less than 20 violations of that stuff they're talking about. I mean, this is stuff, I've been in trouble for before here in Arizona with just silly stuff. Like sometimes you just don't even realize you're doing something wrong because you wrote the brokerage wrong name incorrectly. Like when I was at Keller Williams, I thought saying Keller Williams was enough, and it's not. You have to say Keller Williams, in that case, KW Phoenix, because that was the name of the actual brokerage, not just the franchise name. And so there's these little things I think that maybe agents don't understand. And what I'm pleased about though, as an eXp agent, is I saw our co-presidents, Stacy Onen and Dave Kennord, step up, come out right away and say, guys, like we have to tackle this. Yes, it might sound silly, and this is a very serious thing. We've got to make sure everything goes through compliance, gets approved before you start printing business cards, putting out Facebook pages, putting out websites, etc. So they're taking it very seriously. But I'll tell you, like, just me personally as an agent at the company, I'm kind of laughing at it because it sounds like somebody, maybe wanted this to happen.
Yeah, it's it's interesting, and Kennord is right. He's a sharp guy. You got to get it under control because it's not worth the hassle. I can remember I had to buy $5,000 worth of new signs because I had Pat Hyben Real Estate Group on it, and the frickin' Maryland Association of Realtors said you weren't allowed to have the word real estate in your team name, which, quite frankly is asinine in my opinion, just like your opinion. But I did it. Like Kennord said, you got to do it, right? Or they're just going to be relentless. So you got to do it. You can't fight City Hall. So anyway, so I did it. Cost me $5,000, but I'm still perturbed about it. And that was like freaking 12 years ago. So anyways.
Dude, I feel your pain, man. I wrote a check for $5,000 to avoid having to defend myself. And just because it's just ridiculous. We had to go change something on like 1,000 videos that were online. And I literally had to change the name of my LLC because the state deemed that it was misleading to the public. Although the whole point of naming the LLC the way we named it was so it wouldn't be misleading. So it would be very clear what it was. But, the state sees things differently, and we got to play by their rules for the time being. And
yeah. Dude,
speaking of rules and lawsuits and whatnot, did you see NAR? You see this thing on NAR about finally responding about these lawsuits and I guess, quote unquote, fighting back?
What's up, brokers, team leaders, office managers, and rainmakers of teams? I got a question for you today. What are the two most frustrating things about running a real estate team? the two things that cause you more headaches than anything else. Think about it. The brokers I've talked to have all given me the same answer: recruiting and retention. If you're in the same boat, if nothing you've tried seems to work, I've got some good news. Your problem finding, recruiting, and retaining high-quality agents are about to be over. I'm launching my new Retoot course, a course that provides an in-depth, first-ever look at the recruiting and retention secrets of the industry's top recruiters. To kick off Retoot's launch, I'm offering the course along with 2 other high-value items at a super low price to podcast listeners. Since I'm throwing in 2 free items with my Retoot Secrets course, I'm going to simply call it my 1-2-3 discount package. Okay, so let me talk to you about the 1-2-3 discount package. In addition to Retoot, you're going to get a subscription for each of your teammates or anybody in your office to my Big Profit weekly jackpot emails, which are basically agents from around the world giving advice on how to increase your profit on a daily basis in this business. If your agents put these effective, easy to implement tips to use, their sales and most importantly, their profits will improve. Plus, I'll provide you with a year's worth of monthly sales meetings, content to have at your sales meeting so you don't have to struggle figuring out what to say to your agents or your team. I'm calling it my Lunch and Learn sales training series. That's an entire year's worth of sales meetings that you won't have to plan and that your agents are guaranteed to get massive value from. So to recap, purchasing the 1-2-3 discount package gets you 1, my brand new Retoot course, 2, my Big Profit Agents weekly jackpot emails for everybody in your office, and 3, a year's worth of Lunch and Learn training sessions. If you want this limited time package, act fast and go to hibandigital.com/123. Real easy, hibandigital.com/123. Yeah, finally, right? I mean, it took them forever. They probably had to get about 12 lawyers to draft up this document. And in the meantime, the poor secretary, they probably had a million questions being called in and emailed for the last month. But yeah, it's fascinating, dude. It's like you could definitely tell that a strong lawyer or someone wrote this, right? Because it says, there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. It's like a Q&A, and it says, I'm looking at a copy of it now from NAR, and it says like, is it okay to discuss the lawsuit with my clients? Absolutely, period. And then there's another question, and it's like, and this is one I want to talk about. It says, do brokers try to keep their commission arrangements a secret from the home seller and the home buyer to better conspire to keep fees artificially high? And then the answer is absolutely not, period. And then it goes on, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but a lot of the answers are like very strong and absolutely no, so of course, right? I mean, they're responding to a lawsuit,
Yeah, they've got what's my favorite word? Vehemently deny the allegations, right? So
vehemently, I love that.
That's anytime a lawyer or spokesperson says that, I'm like, oh, he's guilty. That guy did it, But the thing is, this is serious stuff, and I think it's a sign of the times. Like, you and I have talked about so many of these tech companies over the last 5 months that we've been doing the show, Pat, and all of the disruption that's going on in the space. And truthfully, I see this lawsuit as kind of part of that. It's driven by consumer behavior. Now, I'm not saying that the lawsuit's frivolous. I'm not saying that it's valid, because truthfully, who knows why the person filed the lawsuit. What I do think we could do a better job of as realtors is worrying about our fiduciary responsibility instead of our pocketbooks. Now, that's not to say that we're doing something wrong as a whole and that we're trying to artificially keep prices high. I'm not saying that. I don't believe that at all. I think most realtors are innately really good people who do have a heart of service, and not everybody is that way. And I think if we would just put our focus more on the consumer and their experience and less on protecting what we feel we have the right to, especially when it comes to our fees, I think we probably, could maybe understand this stuff a little bit more and maybe even avoid some of it.
Yeah, the more I read into this, the more interesting it gets. And I think there's no question about do companies, do agents, do brokers have the right to protect their fees? Yes, right? Unequivocally, yes. But, right, the consumer also has the right to know what everybody else's fees are, right? And herein lies the rub. And this is very interesting, right? There's a couple of states, right? Let's see. Missouri, I don't know, 2 states. So let's say Missouri and Iowa, I think. Basically don't allow, right, a buyer broker to pay an agent to pay a buyer back, right? Let's say a co-op is 3% and the agent wants to give 2% back, just like, a lot of these companies do. There's a couple of states that won't allow that, right? And so then you got a question is, well, why does the state care? Why does the state give a shit? And the reason why the state gives a shit is because the associations have lobbied the state to give a crap. Otherwise, it would be in the best interest of the consumer if an agent gave them a kickback, right? How could that not benefit the consumer?
Totally. I think there's probably, because there's gray area no matter what side of that you're on. But I also look at like Iowa, man, that's the state where it was the Berkshire brokerages would pay their co-op fee to any other real estate brokerage except for Keller Williams. As Keller Williams was coming in there because they were starting to kick some ass, and they were paying a $1 co-op to KW agents and a full, call it 3%, 2.5%, whatever it was, to any other agent at any other brokerage. And so, I think that sometimes you just have states. My guess is this is the same with most laws.
The key was like at the end of the day, that was something that the seller probably was not aware of, right? Because that served the company that was doing that, right? They were pissed off. That was vengeance. And it served that company, but did it serve the seller? Hell no, it didn't serve the seller.
That's my whole point. That was about an agent, in that case, a whole brokerage who decided that their needs were more important than their clients, than the consumer. Yeah. And that's never okay. Like that never leads to good things. And so that's what I just mean as an industry, man. We've got to stop thinking me, and how much can I get and how much of mine can I protect? And what can we do for our consumers? I think when we do that, because if you don't want to think that way, then be unlicensed and just be an investor, because then you don't have any liability. But if you want to be commission salesperson, well, there's state rules and regulations we all got to follow, and it comes down to putting a fiduciary responsibility ahead of your own.
And what this lawsuit says essentially is that if the real estate commission were decoupled, which means a buyer pays a buyer fee and a seller pays a seller fee. They're not connected, right? They're not coupled together, right? If they're decoupled, is it best for the consumer? And then what they go on to say is they went and did a survey in the United Kingdom and like 5 other countries that have competitive real estate markets, right? And they found that in these other countries, the commissions are decoupled. And then they looked at what is the average commission in a decoupled real estate sales universe. Now, let me ask you, what do you think it is?
Average commission per
average
side.
Commission. Let's say the average commission in the, I'm just making this up. I think it's 2.65, but let's say it's something like that, right? If whatever it is, it's 265. I think I read according to the stat. So let's say the average in the United States is that, right? What do you think it is in some of these other countries that have decoupled their commission, where the buyer pays the buyer and the seller pays the seller?
Probably close to 1.5.
Exactly.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. And so what they're saying is, hey, you know, that's a true market, right? That's what a buyer's actually willing to pay. And these countries have proven it. So by not allowing the decoupling of the commission, you guys have kept it higher than where it should be. And there's another interesting thing that was fascinating to me. It said when you, and this is how they say the whole thing's a conspiracy, because the MLSs are involved in this. And this is what they say. Say, let's say, Kevin, let's say you sell a house, right? And you MLS it for 300 grand, right? And it sells for full price, and the seller gives the buyer 10 grand back in commission. When you're running comps, can you find that on there as an agent?
No.
10 grand back in closing costs.
I can find it in our MLS in Phoenix.
Yeah.
I don't know about everywhere else.
Yeah, you can. It says, okay, it sold for full price. Seller concession was 10 grand, right?
Yep.
So if, let's say, I sell a house in Phoenix and you offer me a co-op, right? And I sell for $300,000, the seller pays $10,000 back in closing costs, but also the agent kicks back half of the commission to the buyer. Do you know about that?
No.
Do you know about that in the MLS? Can you see that in the comps?
Nope.
Can a consumer see in the comps
Nope.
that other buyers are getting a better deal because they're getting part of the commission back?
Nope.
So it's sort of like, it's sort of like having the prices of gas go down, and then the whether it's the board or the MLS or of gas stations say you're not allowed to advertise. You're not allowed to tell people the prices are going down. Does this make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying. That's the way commercial real estate works in often cases, is the buyer pays their representative and the seller pays their listing representative. They're
supposed to change the co-op. Like technically you would be able to look at the co-op and say, oh, this sold for 300,000 with 10 grand back, and the co-op was changed to 1.5% because it was a Redfin agent. The Redfin agent kicked back the buyer 1%. Does this make sense? It needs to be documented.
We need more transparency.
Transparency.
Yeah. It's kind of like when I just put on an event at a hotel in Las Vegas, and to say that they were not transparent would be an understatement, right? Like triple taxation.
What do you mean? Tell me about that.
What I mean is they tell you it's one thing, and like they show you estimates in one format, and then the final bill is in a totally different format. And I think that most people just accept it. Like we were on the phone with the general manager because they overcharged us by thousands, Pat, by thousands, not by $10 or $200, but by thousands. And what we found, what I can't help but wonder is like, how many people just pay it? Like it's the corporate card. So they're just running it and paying for the event and signing off on it because it's not really their money. But it's like, it was the definition of not being transparent with your clients and customers. Or I think about all the different fees you have when you rent a car, or some of these other things where it's not really transparent what we pay as consumers. And the minute things become transparent, all of a sudden as consumers, we have more information and we're able to make better decisions, right? And it forces the producer of the goods or the producer of the services to kind of up their game. I'll tell you, as someone who considers themselves a professional and a business owner in the real estate world, decoupling doesn't scare me. I think that it scares probably NAR and all of the associations, because that means we would have fewer people who could afford to make it, because at that point your skill level's got to go up on the buy side. You can no longer be like, well, you don't even have to pay me, right? It's about, I'm going to have to win your business as a buyer and as a seller. And then on the listing side, we're going to have to prove to our clients that we have the ability to actually sell their house, not just put it in the MLS. And I think that would force us all to up our game. The problem is NAR and all of the associations are membership-based businesses.
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, and we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you could think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox, and it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com/toolbox or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now. Hey, real estate agents and rock stars. If you're getting value out of the content in this episode, make sure you like the video and subscribe to this channel. Also, click the little bell icon to be notified about upcoming episodes. And I would also love it if you left a comment and shared the most impactful tips and tactics you've learned from the knowledge shared in this episode, or even maybe make a suggestion requesting a topic of what you'd like to learn in future episodes. I welcome any feedback below. Now, back to the episode.
So, there's 1.2 million realtors or whatever right now. And if that number goes to 400,000, that's not good for NAR.
Yeah, it's fascinating. That's a good point that you said. It forces listing agents to prove that they have to sell the house. Because right now, all listing agents, their goal is you go in there, right? You do a sales pitch of why you're better than the other listing agent. And then you put in an MLS, and it's probably 95% chance it's going to sell from the MLS, regardless of who the damn agent was, right? So now you'd really have to prove it.
Yeah.
Right now you couldn't just get lucky.
You would actually, and you know what this would do? Gosh, I had not thought about it like this. What would that do to the price of a pay-per-click lead on your IDX website, right? Because all of a sudden those become infinitely more valuable.
Yeah, you'd have to show. You'd have to show. Look, my properties get 5 clicks a day or 500 clicks a day.
Yeah, it'd be a different ballgame. So I think this is probably going to take a long time to play out. I think that NAR is absolutely going to do everything that they can to protect their members, as they should. And I'm curious what's going to happen. I'm really curious what will happen, whether this lawsuit goes away or actually or if we as realtors lose it or win it. I think what's the next step, like what's the next domino in this story to fall is going to be really curious in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. And are the agents transparent? Here it all goes back to, they say, transparency. And, I think one of their big parts of this case is that agents are not transparent. Yeah, that you sign a document, one of 50 that you sign when you list a house. It says, hey, there's the commission and here's how it's split. But the agents, the sellers don't know any better. You know what I mean? I mean, it's almost like you need to be a 10-minute conversation with them about it. If you want to be truly transparent, it needs to be, I realize it may sell for less of a co-op. Yes, no. You know what I mean? I realize it may sell, anyways, we could go on and on, but this is good stuff. So let's keep talking about transparency. There was a fascinating thing. Usually our, articles are coming from Housing Wire, from, MS News, from Inman. Today we got one from Vanity Fair, and it's about something that, and these guys were on my show, the Jills. They came on my show, way long time ago in the first 100. Great ladies. They were just huge, massive. I was like freaking 12-page long articles, like a short form story in Vanity Fair. Talk to me about that.
Dude, this blew my mind. First of all, I like, hats off to whoever's in charge of their publicity. Like like this real estate team, these amazing ladies, they got publicized in Vanity Fair. Okay, like a non-real estate, non-business magazine. That's awesome. So as an advertising guy, as an advertising junkie, man, I love that. I want an autograph from them.
It'll never stop showing up in their Google search. That's for sure.
Oh, totally. Like, that's got so much juice for them. So good for them. Really interesting stuff. Like this guy, is it Kevin Tomlinson? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Who he's got all these charges and potentially facing up to like 30 years in jail for trying to extort them, for harassing them, and just really going overboard. And this all started because he disagreed, I guess, with some of their practices and they're of course claiming they didn't know that they did it, with the way they entered stuff into the MLS, and essentially tried to, it's almost like they were trying to behave as if there wasn't a co-op, right? Because they were trying to sell their listings themselves. At least that's how he made it sound.
Well, what they were doing, let me dumb this down real quick, and then you can talk about him and stuff. But what they did, and they admitted it, right? So this was 100%, by the way, wrong. Just because this guy's getting ready to go to jail doesn't mean that he's the only one wrong here. He was unequivocally wrong, and he was wrong in a criminal manner. Now, what they did is not criminal, but it's a little dirty. And I'll tell you what they did. So what they did is, let's say they had a listing that's been on the market 180 days or 350 days. And, no one was looking at it because it was freaking $3 million and been on the market 2 years. And people were like, well, what's wrong with it? So what they did is they took it out of MLS. But before they took it out of MLS, they put spaces and dashes between all the letters. So if it was Bayview Drive, it would be BAY -V space A space view V space I -E. You know what I mean? Like, so first of all, so you'd never be able to find it again. And the second of all, so they would re-enter it as Bayview Drive, all 2 words, and it would show up as 0 days on the market. And it ended up, they did this, this dude, Kevin, clearly, is a little OCD, right? He got on the computer one night and he just started looking. He found like 522 instances of this happening. And another thing that they did in doing these same tricks is they, would put listings on the market that were brand new that they spaced out the views too. They spaced out the words too, so other agents couldn't find them. And so when agents were trying to find, they would drive past a house and they would, type in Umpty Ump Street. It wouldn't show up on the searches because they put all these spaces and dashes and stuff in it. And then agents, buyers would get frustrated because they say, I can't find it. It must be sold. Or it's not on the market. I can't find it. And they're like, are you sure? I'm sitting in front of it. And they're like, yeah, I'm sure. And then they would call the Jills direct, and the Jills go, oh yeah, I can get you into that. And then they double dip the commission. And this evidently, I don't know if it was proven, but there was a board of realtors complaint filed where they basically accepted guilt and came clean and were like, we're sorry. We did this. Yes, we did it, and we'll never do it again. Sorry. But evidently this dude wouldn't let it go, and he became like I just finished watching, what's that movie on Netflix about Versace? Did you see that?
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I know what you're talking about.
He became obsessed like the guy stalking Versace. So go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Yeah. What's funny is, right or wrong, obviously they admitted to it. But not only did they evade any sort of like getting into trouble or anything legal, they turned the tables on him, and he's now a defendant, like literally facing up to 30 years in prison. One of the Jills, I think, was quoted as saying in that article is that he had plotted this for months and literally made this part of his business plan.
And what he's talking about is he extorted him. So
yeah,
so what he did is, first of all, a normal, how many pages, Kevin, do you think, if someone wants to complain to you, let's take these California EXPs, going back to that. If someone wants to file a complaint in the Board of Realtors, how many pages do you think the complaint is probably on something that someone did?
gosh, that is a good question, and I've never looked at that. Pages?
Less page or two. Okay, so this dude's complaint was 500 pages.
Good God.
So he did a 500-page complaint to the Association of Realtors, and he was pushing it. It was making a big deal, and it was like ruining their freaking, Google searches, right? Because all this stuff was out there. And so evidently he like showed up unannounced to one of the Jills's house and told her basically that if he got $250,000 out of her cash and $250,000 out of the other Jill, for $500,000 total, he would drop it. And then they went to the FBI and they were like, hey, this is extortion. They probably called the lawyer, and the lawyer was like, no, time for you to turn the tables now. Right. And so they turned the tables, and then the judge found him guilty of this. And it's been, a long process. And so then he got guilty, and they gave him, like a massive extended probation. And then, he decides to go out and continue talking about it, and posted a bunch of Facebook posts of him. Oh, by the way, his sentence was house arrest. So he's posting on Facebook and leaving the house and doing a bunch of stuff. And then they threw him back in jail. Like, dude, really?
Yeah, this dude's got some problems. There's no doubt about it. And I guess I'll end my last comment on this. Like, I love, this was the quote that just jumped off the page at me in this article, which was, real estate is not such a ladylike business, said one of the Jills. There's lions and tigers and bears out there. And, I think that goes to really all of the things in businesses. Yeah, there are some people out there that are doing some not so cool things and not so nice things. And unfortunately, some of us, all of us have to deal with that, whether that be reputation or because in this case where the Jills are the target of it, that sucks. It really sucks for them. I feel bad for them. And, I really feel bad for that guy, Kevin. Like, he needs some help.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. So anyways, nice to get the real estate community, or what do you say, occupation, or, written up in Vanity Fair, giving us some, like you said, giving us some free publicity. So, all right, Kevin, well, this has been fun, buddy. I think that's it for this week. You got anything else?
No, brother, I think that's it. I'm excited for what's going to come down. One little tiny thing I heard that,
yeah.
I don't know if it's true yet. I heard Purple Bricks is exiting Australia, and rumblings are, will they be exiting the U.S. next? Hopefully by the time State of the Market goes on next week.
Well, they just out of money? Or is it just, it's just not, I guess why you exit any market is just because it's not working.
I think that's the case, right? Is you just realize like, hey, this business plan just doesn't work here.
But at the same time, that Redify or Redify thing is the same thing as Purple Bricks, isn't it? $3,500 listing fee.
Sure is. Maybe they got some different technology. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, fascinating. I mean, it's before its time, but somebody, and again, everything we talk about is like intermingled somehow. But if the real estate commissions are decoupled, I mean, stuff like that could be more popular. And someone might be positioned well if that were to ever happen. But if it doesn't ever happen, I think it's just extremely hard because people don't think that way. You know what I mean? They think that they right now, I think most consumers want the whole package. They want the listing agent and the buyer agent, and they they want them strong.
Yep. So we'll see. We'll keep our eyes on that, and that's all I got for this week.
All right, buddy. Yeah. So next week I got Dave Falk from Hello Alex, CEO of Hello Alex is going to be here. I'm going to be in Seattle. So you guys will knock it dead. Look forward to hearing that on my vacation.
Right on. I'm looking forward to chatting with him as well. And enjoy your vacation, buddy. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, guys. And if you want to respond to this, go to Next Level Agents on Facebook. Next Level Agents on Facebook, or just take us a watch on YouTube at Real Estate Rockstars or Pat Hyben on YouTube, and make a comment there. Talk to you guys later. Thanks, Kevin.
Later, guys.
Thanks for tuning into the State of the Market podcast with your host, Pat Hyben and Kevin Kaufman.
Thank you so much for listening to the State of the Market. If you have any news you would like us to cover, please go to Next Level Agents on Facebook or send an email to info@rebusuniversity.com. That's info@Rebus University, REBUS University.com, and we'll be sure to bring it up